Audrey A. Thomas, and this is Thoughtfulness Thursday. So I went from having three co hosts to being all by my lonesome. And I guess, the universe does what it wants when it wants in whatever way it wants to. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm Audrey A. Thomas. I call myself Audrey A. Thomas ESQ, but I'm told I shouldn't use ESQ anymore because I was disbarred on 11/9/2022. But my position is disbarred is not denied. So I recreated myself and reinvented myself as disbarred1109.com. And the reason for doing so is because you know how they always tell you that when life gives you lemons, you should make lemonade? Not me. When life gives you lemons, dig up the ground, bury the lemons, grow your own lemon trees, and then start a whole business. That's me. My thought process is this too shall pass, right? So whether you're at the top of your game and you're feeling yourself, this too shall pass. You're at the bottom of the valley and things aren't working out, this too shall pass. For me, life is fluid, and the one constant in this equation we call life is change. So accept change as inevitable and move along. I see Brianna Coy has joined. Brianna, good evening. How are you? Hello, Brianna. Can you hear me? Brianna's having some difficulties. Brianna, are you on? I can see you on the screen, but we can't hear you. Cindy will take care of that. Ladies and gentlemen, our theme on Thoughtfulness Thursday is bad things happen when good people stay quiet. Bad things happen when good people stay quiet. I love the theme, and I wrote the theme because of the conversations that I've been having. I wrote the theme because of the issues that I myself have faced here. Cindy, they're texting. You're gonna find, ladies and gentlemen, that because it's a live broadcast, as our circumstances change, what we will be doing is adapting. I think that's my gift, right? In this journey that I call life, my gift is to adapt and to adapt really well. I told someone that my superpower is self actualization. And so I've asked my daughter, Brianna Coy, who I admire greatly, I call her the giver and the gift, to join me tonight. We're having some technical difficulties that Cindy is going to try to work out. Cindy, are you able to, yeah, are you able to figure out why Brianna we can't hear you, Bri? Can you hear me, Brianna? She said she can't get off of mute. Maybe I have to unmute her. Um, I'm gonna. Mhm. Yes, I'm gonna unmute her. Cindy, can you help me? She says she can't get off of mute. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by and abide with me. Cindy's trying to fix it. Brianna, don't go anywhere. She's trying to get you off of mute now. But the beauty in this equation we call life, right, is the willingness to accept that we are perfectly imperfect. Um, when faced with adversities, we have a number of choices. Among those choices, I believe, is to choose to reinvent yourself, to choose to adapt, to choose to find appropriate outcomes and solutions to your problems. For me, I'm constantly asking for help. And when I say help, I'm talking about I'm not surrendering my self to any person, place, thing, or reality. What I'm constantly doing is asking for help to recreate the realities that I want for myself. Uh, Among that practice is talking to my children to gain their perspective, to find out how the choices that I make affect the people outside of me. I speak to my friends. Cindy is someone who I'm constantly calling and asking for assistance. Uh, I've spoken to colleagues, I've spoken to my therapist, I've spoken to attorneys. What I try to do is I try my best to think further than the corner of my block, which was one of the themes that we had actually on this show, is to think further than the corner of your block. And so I love the dynamic aspect of my socialization. Um, I'm writing a book right now called Social Antagonism is the Worst Form of Oppression, the Anna Delvey Reality. And the reason why I'm writing that book is to talk about the effects that being socially antagonized has on you as an individual. And I like to say, I don't care. They don't matter to me. My favorite person is me. But then Brianna will tell you when we finally get her off mute that I cry, right? When things aren't going my way. That my reaction to protect myself is anger. That there are so many things that happens, but what Brianna will also tell you is that as these things are happening, every single person who's connected to me, who's in love with me, who's living life simultaneously with me is affected by my experiences, choices, and the socially antagonistic issues I'm facing. So tonight, the theme, bad things happen when good people stay quiet, is my way of asking for help, right? It's my way of saying that as a good person, if you see something, you say something. You do more than judge or go in the comments and say your little posts and things, right? I had two clients that were murdered because of something they posted on the internet. They were antagonizing someone and they were doing it for likes. They got over 400,000 likes. He killed both of them. Yeah, he murdered them. So actually, there were three because an innocent friend of theirs who happened to be with them was killed as part of that. So the reason why I'm talking about this idea that bad things happen when good people stay quiet is we created disbarred1109.com as a means to police the legal profession, right? Because I would submit that the people in the legal profession, including myself, are have the most power to antagonize, right? Another one of the themes that we had on was there's no point in mastering the game if you're not making the rules. Brianna, just hit me up and let me know that you're hearing me at least, so that when we do get
I'm
you on,
hearing you and I'm off mute.
you are. Look at
Yes.
that. So I'm going to stop there. My last statement, ladies and gentlemen, is that people in the legal profession are in the greatest position to antagonize because there's no point in mastering the game if you're not making the rules. And the people who are in the legal profession are essentially the rule makers. So I'm going to turn the mic over now to Brianna. Brianna, the theme, bad things happen when good people stay quiet. Elaborate on it, please.
I see what you mean. Thinking of a can see how that could be. Sometimes the people who are the ones to stand up and say something, there has to be that one good person out of the bunch to say no. So definitely need some good people to stand.
Yeah, because one of the things
Definitely.
that you we're hearing every other word, Cindy. I guess eventually you'll get it working. But Brianna, one of the things that we talked about when we were traveling together, right, was this idea that probably a second part of the theme is bad things happen when good people stay quiet because they're afraid of judgments, right? And
Right.
how relatable is that for you?
Relatable as far as fearing judgment. Um, be crippling, knowing the pressure from society and knowing what and having an interest in something that's not acceptable is like it's still embrace it and to still be who you are. It's not easy, and even when you find it still hurts to be rejected and to be for whatever it is that you like that's not acceptable.
Right. And the our website that's coming soon, right? It's this website is the place where you find questions to the answers you're seeking. And I came up with that because of my love of philosophy, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a proponent of philosophical thought process, right? The idea that you should philosophize, not judge, not conclude, but instead to be in a constant state of I'm going to question my own conclusion. Now, the reason why I love this young lady, Brianna, for those of you who are just joining, is she's my daughter, right? But I have to give you a little background. I called Brianna the giver and the gift, right? Because for me, Brianna was everything I asked for from the universe and more, right? I my family thought I was going crazy because I had given birth to three sons back to back. My first three children, biological children. I have nine children in total. My two oldest are adopted, and then I had three boys of my own, and then then I had the other children after. But the first three biological children were boys. And I didn't adopt the two older kids until afterwards, right? So I had the first child, it's a boy. I had the second child, it's a boy. I was pregnant a third time, thought it was a girl, miscarried in like my fifth month, lost the baby, and then had my fourth child, and it was a boy. So by at that point, I was literally going crazy because I wanted a daughter. I just felt this urgent need for a daughter. It was like it's the only thing I could conceive of. I pun intended. Ultimately, I get pregnant with this young lady and I have a daughter. And she was the light of my life. I love this child so much that I tied my tubes after her because I decided that I didn't want anyone to take my attention away from her. I now have what I prayed for and hoped for. And so, to add icing to my cake, the child decides that she wants to be an attorney. So, she comes and she starts working in my law practice at 14. And we worked side by side for years. But the young lady, who's a really good person, never said anything to me about the observations that she was making about me, right? And I'm slaying because they nicknamed me, right, Brianna, the pit bull. They nicknamed me the beast. And I'm thinking that I'm this great woman in the world and I'm dominating. But the child was terrified of me. Brianna, you remember the conversation we had? And when I asked you,
Which one?
when I asked you, why are you so afraid of me? What was your response? I said, I've never hit you, right? Why are you afraid of me? And what did you tell me?
I've witnessed what you've done to everyone else.
Yeah. And that broke my heart because in that moment I came to realize that the only person who really mattered to me more than life itself did not admire the life that I have chosen to live. She didn't admire the qualities that I thought were urgently important. Ironically, my grandmother, who I emulate, was just like me. And I watched her from because I went to work with her every day because my mother went to America. And I saw her being dominant. You know, I've seen my grandmother headbutt grown men, knock them unconscious, and I thought it was amazing. It didn't terrify me or make me think my grandmother was a dangerous woman. I admired her strength and power and conviction, and I wanted to be like her. But it terrified my daughter. It literally broke her down to the point where it almost destroyed our relationship. So for me, bad things happen when good people stay quiet is my way of saying sometimes the person that you're judging loves you and they need to know how you're perceiving because your perception can never be wrong. And maybe had you said something, I could have done something sooner. I could have adapted, I could have changed, I could have grown. And I'm grateful that because I've always had reading round table and family night and all of these different nights with my children, we still have a dialogue going between us, but we almost lost us because of me, right? And I didn't know because my perception was that women who are dominant, who are aggressive, who, my favorite phrase was what, Brianna? We're gonna have this conversation again on my term, right? I thought these qualities admirable because in my socialization, I respected it and I loved it from my grandmother. Brianna did not. So that bothered me. And it brought me to this place where we are right now, right? Right, Bree?
Yes, now I feel like it's all my fault.
I don't think it's fault. I think you have to feel like you have helped me to grow, right? Because sometimes all people need is to grow and glow. And you're not a you're not wrong for telling someone what you think might be right. Right, Bree?
Right.
Now let's talk. Let's.
So
I want you to elaborate a little bit about why it crippled you so much to the point where you couldn't tell me what you thought was wrong.
I don't know. Maybe I was just a lot more why you admired it in your grandmother and I didn't see it that way. I don't know. Maybe more was for you to soften it. I don't know. Like it's just destiny. Maybe God chose for me to be this way for everything. No. But I just saw it and quivered and quivered. My
Yeah. And the sad part, ladies and gentlemen, is that because she was silent and because I wasn't aware, right? I assumed that my role in her life was the role of the hero, right? So when she finally, I don't know where you got the voice from, right? When one day we had something and wow, she flattened me. And I remember saying to myself, well, I saw this going differently in my head. But it wasn't until I was threatened with the thought of losing my giver and my gift that I started to reflect. I started to see things differently. And I wanted to change, not for me. I wanted to grow to become the person that I hope to be in Brianna's life. Right? So for me, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm speaking to young people now, if you are observing your parents and they're making choices and decisions that you feel in your heart is horrible and could be dealt with differently, I encourage you to say with respect, with kindness, or rage, whatever you're feeling, but say something because bad things happen when good people stay quiet. I learned from studying the American history. I'm Jamaican by birth, American by choice. I learned from studying the American history that a lot of the abolitionists who were young white people who fought to undo the ills of slavery in the United States did it undercover, and their parents didn't know they were involved. Many of them, because like Brianna, the parents were driven. The parents were thought they were being great and they were exercising their superiority and their dominance and their power and their ability to make laws. But for them, it was just, oh my God, this is horrendous. You don't know what your actions are causing. And they corrected their parents, but they didn't do it directly. They did it undercover. But they brought about the change that we can now all believe in. Someone said to me a long time ago, Audrey, you always talk about Black Americans, but you have to stop because the only reason why you're able to be in this country to talk about Black Americans not being as driven as you is because Black Americans fought for civil liberties. Aha. Bad things happen when good people choose to stay quiet. If you're a good person, you can say something if you see something, even if you're afraid of judgments. Brianna, as you guys can see, is shy and sweet. She changed me. At a very minimum, she reinvoked my spirit of goodness by simply pointing out to me how I affected her because of the things that she observed me do, right? Because I never took what they say in Jamaica, tea for fever. Seriously, guys, like humbled is not the same as humble. Judge, what's his name? Judge Murphy, I would always say, humbly and respectfully, Your Honor. And he would say, Audrey A. Thomas, there isn't a humble bone in your body. And I doubt that you're even respectful. I think you're just lying. And I would laugh, right? So for me, having Brianna correct certain aggressions about me, and I'm very aggressive, forced me to become a better person. One example of this is the show I did last week. I was a ball of fire and I took names, I wrote names and took no prisoners. And then when she and I had a conversation about my show, I had to apologize to my co host because, yes, I did me, but I didn't think about how my doing me affected we, right? This is a young person. I've done all the things I wanted to do. It doesn't matter at this point. I'm disbarred. They can't disbar me again. But ultimately, he may have aspirations of wanting to be an attorney. He may want to go on to have a judicial clerkship or something. And here it is. I just slayed all these judges and lawyers, blah, 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 me, without ever thinking about the we. And the only reason why I came to that realization is because this good person said something. She didn't curse me. She didn't yell at me. She wasn't critical. She just asked me to consider someone other than myself. And it was the most powerful experience I ever had. This post. Brianna,
Mm.
please don't let me dominate the conversation.
I feel the universe makes no mistakes and everything is in perfect balance. And it's those things growing up. I would probably be a very mean. I believe that seeing other people get hurt made me. But if you've never seen that, or I don't know the reason behind all of this, but and I don't have any regrets. I know I have the ability to be a very so maybe I needed to see that. I needed to see someone else do and work on that. Sometimes you have to see someone else do it to realize how bad it looks.
Right.
So sometimes that's why the good people stay quiet. They're learning and they're learning what not to do
Right.
as a judgmental person. And I knew there was a method to all of your madness. And I don't know. I don't know why I didn't speak up. I definitely started to find my voice as I got old. Started to say things and we started to talk about stuff. And, it just took me to realize that. And to understand you more. You were support, your family and to do all the things that you had set out to do. Not that you was ambitious and wanting to accomplish all the great things. And this is, I do see why you have to be assertive in certain areas, especially as an attorney. I guess. So I don't think there's anything to regret or to dwell on, but growth is a thing to talk about for the people who need the help now. But I don't think there's anything to look back, You learn, you grow, and there's another chapter. There's struggle and the pain of growth.
Right. Right. And the beauty with growth, ladies and gentlemen, is that once there's life, there's hope, right? Like I always say that the measure of a human, of any human, comes only at the time of their death. Because as long as you have life, there's hope. There's a chance that you can change and grow and become a better version of you. I don't
Mhm.
think I'm any different today than I was prior to my conversations with Brianna. What I think is I'm more thoughtful in my thirstiness,
Right.
right? I am just as thirsty today as I was yesterday to acquire accolades and grandeur and all of these things. But I'm making better choices in furtherance of those goals. I'm still going to become Dr. Audrey A. Watson Coy, Thomas Hyde, Edwards, etc., etc. I'm still going to learn Hebrew and French and Spanish and all of these things. I'm just going to be more balanced, right? I'm also going to be reading to my grandchildren. I'm also not going to curse out the lady in the drive-through window because she's talking smack because she still has to prepare my meal. According to Brianna, that is like the worst thing you can do, mom. I don't want spit in my food, right?
Literally.
Yeah. So it's these are the little things that, having someone there's a show, I forget what it's called, but it had Jamie Foxx in it. But one of the things that the guy said is that Marcus Aurelius had a guy that walked behind him to constantly remind him that he's just a human. Because when you become great, right? Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. I've been told my entire life that I'm greatness personified. Like I'm telling you that as a child, the way I was socialized, I could literally poop in the middle of a shopping center, and the people who raised me would be like, "Oh my god, this girl is so confident. She can poop anywhere. Look at her. Come on, poopy." And someone would clean it up, right? So growing up with that um reality, I never had fear or worries. I'll give you an example. My older brother Mark, when I was younger, I liked a boy. Fancy Dress was his name. And that boy said if I was the last girl on earth, he would not date me. I was 8 years old. And I screamed, "Mark!" And my brother came running and I was crying. And he said, "What's wrong, Sandy? What's wrong?" He said, "I'm ugly." And Mark dropped that boy like a hot potato and used his thumbs to pluck out the boy's two eyes. When they pulled my brother off of him, they're like, "What are you doing? Is he a crab that you're squeezing out his eyes?" My brother said if he's blind, he can't see what she looked like, so he can't comment on her. And I was standing there like, as you should. When Beyonce was in the elevator and her sister beat up Jay-Z, the look she had on her face, that's been my look my whole life. I was never corrected as a child. I was not beaten. I was not discouraged. I was not yelled at. And if anyone dared even look my way, they were. So it was great to have Brianna. It was great to be able to have someone who means so much to me because I would not have been able to hear anyone else, right? I would not be able to hear. And Brianna, we lost you. I would not be able to hear anyone else because I'm not prepared to listen to them. Brianna represents the first time in my life that I was ever willing to listen, not just to reply, but to understand, right? Because this is the child that I prayed for. This was the very essence of my being. This was my purpose, as in telos, right? And I remember my older sister saying, "I pray to God this child is a girl because I think you're going to go crazy if it's not." So she was in the perfect position to help me to grow and glow, right? Even when I'm speaking to her, I speak to her in a way to make sure she likes listening to me. And I think that's what's important, to have someone or to be the someone that can counsel another person to their next greater level. Not to change them, not to make them become your version of goodness, but just to get them to grow so that they can glow for everyone to benefit. Bad things happen when good people stay quiet. I was hoping that Adriana would get on only because she has a perspective that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to, Brianna, I'm asking you to take over for a minute while I try to reach out to Adriana. Brianna, is she frozen? Huh? Brianna's frozen?
Oh no, she kind of jumped out. So we're waiting for it to come back in. Hey, everybody. This is Cindy. Yeah. Thank you for listening to On the Wake Up Radio. Sign up at otwtube.com. Thank you, Sly. Hijacked his stuff. We can't cuss anymore. We're not grown folks. We're kids on YouTube. Stuff. Hijacked his stuff. So, yeah. So I want to thank you for listening to Audrey. Check out disbarred1109.com. Send her a message. She loves the messages. Her site is going to, when is it gonna when are you gonna launch it?
Well, we're launching the site on January 23rd. Uh, Cindy's developing the site as we speak, and that's what we're going for. I'm not sure what I think Brianna lost her connection because I heard like a weird sound and then we lost her off the screen. I'll text her, but Adriana is not on yet. And in any event, I can do a lot um of things, but the one thing that's most important to me is to ensure that I leave a legacy for my children that makes them do more for the world than they take from it. Growing up as a child, although I wasn't curtailed, I was socialized in love, which is probably why I'm able to listen to Brianna so well, right? My dad was constantly telling me to make sure that I don't take more from the world than I give to it. My grandmother was constantly telling me that things go as they ought to, but when your want to and your ought to are aligned, then life seems awesome. When they're not aligned, the only thing you should be doing is trying to make sure that you choose to align your want to with the ought to, because the ought to is never going to change. And although I felt that everyone ought to do what I want, what I knew was that the ought to was really for there to be balance, right? My grandmother would also say, God is a God of balance. He's not the God of tipping the scale in your favor. My older brother, Mark, would constantly remind me that I'm a girl, not in a derogatory way, but to remind me that there is a kindness in me and a power in me that requires me to remember that I have a greater potential for wickedness than men, right? And he would tell me the story about the woman who demanded John the Baptist's head. You have a choice. You could either be like Esther or you can be like her. And so I was constantly being socialized towards love, but I was never made to feel that it wasn't my choice. And I feel like that's why I can see both sides of the coin and respect it. I don't think I'm losing a part of myself by making the adaptations that Brianna recommended. I don't think that I'm diminished by having to listen to a child that I gave birth to. What I know for a fact is that, like she said, the universe will give you what you need when you need it. She just texted me, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Brianna said her service is bad. She's trying to get back on the Wi Fi. We're going to probably try to set up better because one of the things that we plan to do is we're going to be doing the Thoughtfulness Thursday every Thursday. We're going to launch the website in January 23rd, and we're going to really try to grow and glow. That's why you notice the website says you can go on it and see it's disbarred, disbarred 1109.com, but it says the website is the place where you find the questions to the answers you're seeking. Excuse me. Right? Because philosophy teaches us to question even our own conclusion. That's what philosophy teaches us to do. So I'm constantly questioning my own conclusion, right? Even the whole issues with the disbarment and how I got there. People are asking me, well, what happened? And at first I had started explaining, but then I thought about the fact that what happened isn't nearly as important as what I plan to do about it, right? So what I plan to do is I plan to reflect. I can't change anyone else, but I can definitely change myself. I can change the things that are good in me, and I can focus on my strengths, and I can choose ways to advance my good nature. I can use this platform that I now have been given, reluctantly. I can use it for the benefit of those who have to follow me. I can try to um, just really, really do the things that will make the circumstances that we're facing better for we, not just me, right? Because what's good for the goose, they say, is not good for the gander. I want to make sure that people realize that the goose is a part of the gander as well, right? So we have to make choices and decisions that don't just benefit us, but that benefits everyone else. One of the things I want you to understand is this bard 1109.com is a platform where I'm trying to make changes that everyone can believe in, right? A part of making those changes is trying to ensure that what happened to me won't repeat with other attorneys. I can't stop attorneys from being disbarred. That entity is created to police the lawyers, but who's going to police the police that police the lawyers? I think I can. Why am I saying this? I found out that I was disbarred on the news because a reporter called me. I don't think that should be the proper protocol. Remember at the beginning, I said, we need to make sure that there's no point in mastering the game if you're not making the rules. So, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that one of the rules that they change is that they must notify the attorney before they publicize it. They must give the attorney the benefit of having the chance to have the conversation with their family members, right? Someone said, well, you had to have known that there was a case. Yeah, but I submitted a brief. My lawyer submitted a brief. The other side submitted a brief, and we were actively awaiting a decision. There's no legitimate reason why any lawyer should have to find out that they're disbarred in the news. So sorry. So that's one of the first things I'm going to try to use this platform to change. But in trying to foster change, I don't want to just foster change that benefits me, right? I'm not looking to have my appeal overturned just because I want to ensure that I get my law license back in the state of New York. I'm looking to have the appeal overturned because of the injustice that I believe resulted from the way in which this case was handled. So there are all of these considerations that I'm asking that the community supports me in, because let me tell you something. A twig by itself is too weak. It's twigs in a bundle we seek. What my goal for doing this is therapeutic, right? It's being able to talk out my angst. Some people pick up a gun and go into the public forum and kill a whole bunch of people, but then they end up killing themselves or getting arrested. I don't want to die just yet. I'm only 53. And I have a lot of money to make and a lot of things that I want to accomplish. I want to learn Hebrew and French and Spanish and Italian, and I want to start a school called the Olga Miller School for the Gifted. I want to do all of these things that my children can have a legacy they can be proud of. I can't do those things if I pick up my gun and go into the square. So I decided to use this platform, right? I'm going to talk out my angst. I'm going to enlist the public to respond to me. I don't want yes men. I don't want people to say, yes, Audrey, you're right. Do it. Tear them down. I want you to respond and say, hey, Dion said that's why you don't deal with Apple. Hey, that's hilarious. Hey, please, Audrey, last week I listened to your show. You said this, it affected me. Audrey, last week you had a theme. You said this, it really helped me to reconsider. Audrey, here's another perspective. You know, there's so many things that that we can do. Hold on a second. Brianna's texting me. You wanna call me? So, you know, there's so many things that we can do that I think that we need to do together, right? My show isn't for Black women. My show isn't for white men. My show isn't for Rastafarians or Christians or Jews or homeless people. My show is about maintaining an appropriate balance for all people, because out of many, we are one universe of people, right? We are humans first and everything else second. I can't tell you that I'm advocating for one. Hold on, she said she's going to call in. Yeah, I can't say that, no, her internet went out, Cindy. I'm sorry. I can't say that I'm going to try to change injustice when all I'm really trying to do is turn the table, right? One of the chapters in one of my books is don't turn the other, turn the table, not the other cheek. That was before Brianna gave me my good talking to, because I was always a proponent of fork them up, don't fight them. I can't curse. My pastor listens to my show. So when I say fork, you know what I mean. So my position was always fork them up, don't fight them. Because if you fight them, you give them a chance to win. If you fork them up, there's no chance of them coming back. That was my perspective. And I was proud of that perspective because I felt that I was a dominant alpha female and I could do this. I'm evocative strong because he who stands behind me is greater than anything I face. But my daughter doesn't see it that way. My daughter thinks that every person has a right to be loved and regarded and respected, regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity. My daughter believes in justice. My daughter believes in balance. But what I love most of all is when she tried to hold me to account by calling to my understanding and attention the things that she thought that I wasn't doing kindly. She also said to me, I shouldn't feel bad because I'm necessary. In order for her to be able to, hi, she's back.
Okay, I'm so sorry. That was
No, it's fine. You're good.
okay.
The universe, like you said, doesn't make mistakes.
Okay.
What she said to me that I loved in her very inside voice was, well, no, mom, don't feel bad because you're necessary. The only reason why I'm able to have this perspective is because I was able to observe you. And I was like, wow. And so, I got a tattoo. I'm going to show it to you guys. Can you see it? My tattoo says, thankful for my panina. It says, oh, damn it. Hello?
That's hot.
It says, thankful for my panina. Panina, no cross, no crown. And it's 1 Samuel's chapters 1, verse 2 through 20. Hold this for me. I plugged out my earpiece. Hello? Yes. And the reason why I got the tattoo is because in this Bible, the Christian Bible, right? And my perspective for you non-Christian is, even if the Bible is total BS, it's the greatest philosophical text that was ever written. In the Christian Bible, it says that this woman Penina antagonized Hannah so much that Hannah had to seek God with a passion and to seek him more fervently. She's not on the screen, Cindy. So to seek him more fervently. And so what happened is, as a result of being antagonized, Hannah turned to God in a way that made it such a powerful story that the story has lasted over 2,000 years. There would be no Hannah without Penina. So even if you're Penina, I'm Penina in Brianna's eyes in my instances, right? You are still necessary to force Hannah to her next greater level, right? Maybe the choices that I made and the way I challenge people and the fact that I beat that lawyer so bad that his client fired him inspired him to want to do his homework, to never assume that because he's been practicing law for 20 years and at the time I was only practicing law for 5 years, he could best me, right? Maybe you need Penina to become Hannah. So in your wrath, remember mercy, because Everything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And the person that you're thinking may be a staunch adversary may be the person that's inspiring you to your greatness. Don't be afraid of your Penina. Be thankful for him, her, them, it, they. Right, Brianna?
Yes, I agree.
Now,
I'm learning to agree with that and learning to accept the things that were so painful, the things that I used to want revenge for, and now I see the good that came out of it, out of those things. And I'm learning to accept them and to forgive people and to realize that I've also hurt others. And, you know, we're always like, I feel like in different situations, like sometimes I can be Hannah, sometimes I can be the Penina.
yes.
So,
Yes. And in everything, we just give thanks, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see me?
I can see you. The viewers can't, because what Cindy did
Okay.
was she bypassed the internet and just connected your audio.
Okay.
So at a very minimum, we have the audio, but you can see me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining, I'm Audrey A. Thomas. My daughter, Brianna Coy, is my co-host tonight on Thoughtfulness Thursday. Our theme is Bad Things Happen When Good People Stay Quiet. We're trying to show how I've grown, right? How I've grown from being probably quote unquote the beast in law to having to consider how I affect my children, and how you know, just being willing to be accountable to someone can make you a better person. And if you want to grow and glow, you have to be willing to listen, not just to reply, but to understand. And you have to be willing to speak in a way that makes people like listening to you. That's a hard pill to swallow when you think you're the creme de la creme, the the almighty, all powerful, and beyond reproach. It's hard. I said humbled is not the same as humble. And I've been humbled not just by the disbarment, but by Brianna's correction. But she did it in love and light, and I'm grateful for her. She's everything I prayed for and more. And I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to be a parent, because sometimes your vice is not apparent until some child that you've parented calls it to your attention.
And that's why I know that your story is just beginning, because you, with all of your experience, knowledge, strength, assertiveness, and now just a little bit of patience and, humility a little. I know that you're stepping into a new version of who you are, a greater version, and just off to do greater things. The way you're embracing this obstacle and you're going to take it to soar to new heights.
Yes, yes, yes. And guys, again, I want to encourage you. We're gonna have a comment page on the thisbard1109.com. One of the things that we want you to do is on a weekly basis, just bless us with your comments. If you want to be mean and nasty, that's fine, because that might encourage us. If you want to be kind and flowery, that's fine. If you want to be an intellectual, that's fine. Whatever you feel, whatever the universe inspires you to do, we thankful for the Penina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. We are going to try our best to let the spirit of Hannah grow in us. When faced with adversity, we are going to choose wisely, knowing that the lives we're saving is not just our own, but is the lives of our children. When I was in law school, again, I don't take tea for fever. You can't do anything to me. My favorite statement is, we going to have this conversation again on my term. So when I was in law school, someone offended me, and I was the editor in chief of the school paper. And I told Frank Palestino, who was my professor, that I'm going to fix them good. And he said to me, you may get away with doing what you're doing because you're loud and boisterous and you have the power of the pen. And people are afraid of being outed in the paper. But what you're going to do also is you're going to make it hard for those who have to follow you. And those who have to follow you usually look like you. So as a Black, Jamaican, Jewish, Christian, immigrant woman, what's going to happen is the people that I slay may have children or they may survive because it's not a full slaying. They're going to band together. The twig by itself is too weak. It's twigs in a bundle we seek, to make sure that people who look like me will never be able to do this again. Right. And when I thought about when he said that to me, I thought it was very powerful. And I think that's where my growth started. I always say all I ever needed to learn, I learned in law school. And I think it's true because I think that was the first time in my life I was ever made to consider the ramification of my actions. So Brianna is this ongoing version of reflection, of thoughtfulness. And I call it Thoughtfulness Thirst Day because we're often thirsty in our goals, aspirations, dreams, and desires. So many of us will do whatever it takes to get where we want to. I'm not a do whatever it takes kind of a person. I'm a do whatever I want. You can't tell me no. No. Have you met me? That's my favorite phrase. And I think I'm convincing enough because I have a calm about me. Even in my rage, I'm calm. And I think when I do that, people believe that I'm exacting in my purpose, and so they don't really challenge me because they have never seen that type of behavior before, right, Bree?
Definitely. You convince people very well.
Yeah.
But it's gotten you a lot of success in your career and your life, and I can see how that can come to be.
Yes. And also, you have to understand, guys, until you fail, there's no reason to change. So, for example, me being me happened consistently because it always led to my success. So, for example, when I started law school, I flunked out first semester and they put me on academic probation. So then second semester, I flunked out again and they expelled me. But there's an appeal process. So I appealed. And during the appeal process, I kept going to class. And Mary, the attendance lady, kept saying, Audrey, you can't be here. Sweetie, you're going to get me in trouble. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm on appeal. When I win the appeal, how am I going to get the time that I missed from school back? And so she said, okay. And she let me go. And then I won the appeal and I got readmitted. But they told me, Judge Roach said, good news and bad news, we're letting you back in. The bad news is you missed too many days, so you're going to have to do all the classes over. And I'm like, I didn't miss any days. You can ask Mary. And he's like, what? So because of my determination, I also went to the New Jersey bar. I got lost. And because I got lost, I was 2 hours late for the bar. Any other person would have turned around. I still went. And then I hunted down the bar examiners and told them. And of course, got them to accommodate me to take the second half and to come back the next day to take the first half. And I passed the New Jersey bar. Right? So me doing these things, I can tell you countless stories that would make me sound great. But what Brianna has pointed out to me is that can be an addiction like Coke or weed or Xanax or anything else. When you take too much of anything, it can be bad for you. Right, Brie?
Mm-hmm. Right. Definitely. And also what you just said about sometimes it takes a failure for you to change. I think that's why all that time I stayed quiet, because I don't know if it would have gotten through to you until you needed to hear it.
Right.
Because you were so focused and determined on doing what you had to do. And I've been that way about things. When I want to get something done, there's nothing anyone can say to me, or I'm just focused. But eventually, Penina pushes you to the point where you have to.
Yeah, God will send a Penina, and
you
wake up one. The crazy thing is, the last thing I did before the disbarment was a trial, and I lost. That's even like adding insult to injury, because I did 14 trials in 1 year. That's more trials than most attorneys do their whole career, practicing for 20, 30 years, right? I've known attorneys who've been practicing 20, 30 years and they've done 2, 3, 4 trials, right? I did 14 trials in 1 year and I won 13.5 because one of the cases ended in a mixed verdict. I don't lose. I'm not a loser. I'm not, and even if I lose, like I lost 5 immigration cases. I appealed every single one of them and I won the appeals. Only one person who fired me and got another attorney and went someplace else. But the 4 that I appealed, I won. So it's like all my life, I've been getting my way. All my life, I've never heard no. All my life, I'm accustomed to winning. Even when I fail, I overcome the failure because in law school, I overcame the expulsion in, everything I overcome. And then I'm like this. The last thing I do is lose a trial, and then like I lose a trial 2 weeks ago, and then the next 2 weeks I find out I'm disbarred. Like what? No, it can't be not like this. So I think that being in that lowest point of my life, the this too shall pass stage that everyone talks about, but don't think about it in the reverse, forced me to not only be willing to listen, not just to reply, but to understand, but also to have to speak in a way that make people want to hear what I have to say. Because now my voice isn't as strong as it used to be. I'm disbarred attorney Thomas.
Yeah. On to something greater.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm going to encourage you guys to understand is you have to understand that the one constant in this equation you call life is you, right? You are the giver and the gift. That's why I call Brianna the giver and the gift, right? You're able to give and to be gifted. You're able to gift and to be given. So you have to understand that in every instance, there's only one constant, right? It's the change in ways that you can improve on whatever circumstance you're facing.
Yeah.
I prayed night and day, fasted. I literally begged God for Brianna. So when Brianna said in a very angry voice, "You're a toxic ass bitch," and stop speaking to me, I had 2 choices, right? I could have either doubled down and pretend like she's ungrateful and I've done so much and how could she, or I could hear why she said it and try to understand, but let me back in on her terms, right? And it took a while for me to just humble myself, humble my inner voice. I had to improve my argument and learn to not just raise my voice, right? I could have yelled, I could have shot her like Marvin Gaye's father did. How dare you speak to me, the great, high, and powerful Audrey Thomas, like that? Well, that shot you. But what would that have accomplished? It would have ruined my relationship with Bree, and it would have been effectively me spitting in God's face. It would have been me going against everything that I prayed for the last 30 years. 30 years ago, I laid in a hospital bed and I cried for almost an hour because she had a vagina. And today I want to shoot her? No. There's no fact pattern where I turn on anything that I've created, good or bad, right? I created the law practice. I created all of the circumstances that gave rise to where I am right now. I can address them. I can address them. Brianna is not an extension of me. Brianna is a separate and distinct, living, breathing human being that is worthy of my regard and reciprocal respect. And she and I had to figure out how to do this together. But the first thing we had to agree on is that it was worth doing.
Absolutely. It's been a long road.
It has been a long road. And I am so grateful for you, Brianna. I am thanking God with everything that's in me that you understand that bad things happen when good people stay quiet. I am thankful that when called on to be Hannah, you rose to the occasion. I am thankful that because of you, I was able to be thankful. And every single day that I live and breathe, I will continue to say, you, Michael, Andrew, Tatiana, Brianna, Debbie, Adriana, Daniela, Jojo, and Jeremiah are the gifts and the givers that I'm grateful for. I am thankful that despite the pressures and the horrors and all of the pitfalls and the things that you have had to endure because of my choices, we are here together, united in this effort. But most of all, I'm grateful that you didn't give up on me.
Same here.
I'm going to let you have the last word because we've reached the 1 hour mark.
I'm very grateful for this journey. I know that it has only just begun. And I'm looking forward to the future with hope and optimism, not just for our family, but for the planet, because I know how connected we all are. And our growth means their growth. So I'm definitely grateful to have you as a mom and all the guidance that I've learned from you, even the things that, you know, you think you were bad for or you think that were bad. I learned from them. Other people learn from them. And everything comes full circle. We all learn from each other. We work together. We're all human and we're all in this together. And love wins.
It really does. And I love you. And I love all of you the same in an equally different way. I'm your host, Audrey Thomas, attorney at law. You're on Thoughtfulness Thursday. I am disbarred as of 11/09/2022 in New York, but I'm still an attorney because I have a JD. I just can't practice law anymore. I am grateful for Brianna, and I'm reminding you guys that bad things happen when good people stay quiet. But it doesn't mean that when you use your voice, you have to use it to destroy. You can use your voice to build up. You can correct without judgment. Like Brianna loves to say, observe without opinion. But that doesn't mean you have to stay quiet. Please use your voice in love and kindness. Help people to grow and glow. It works out in the end. The universe favors you. Thank you, Cindy. Wake
Thank
Up
you,
Radio.
Cindy.
Brianna said thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night, Brianna. Thank you so much.
Good night. See you next week.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Cindy, I don't know how to end the live, so you have to help me. Ladies and gentlemen, we are trying to sign out. Have a great night. 877 877 Law Nerd, which is 877-529-6373. Call us, tell us what you think. The website, disbarred1109.com. Thank you so much. Have a great night. We're done. Did you log us out? Of course not. End stream. Good night, all.